The number one reason people fail in life is not the lack of talent, nor the absence of opportunities, or even the scarcity of resources. It's something far more profound and destructive. It's the complete lack of respect for oneself. And let me tell you something Carl Jung discovered after decades of studying the depths of the human psyche. If you do not respect yourself, the world will treat you exactly as you treat yourself. The world is a flawless mirror of your self-image. What I'm about to share with you can transform not only the way you see yourself, but also how the entire world responds to your presence. Years ago, Jung spoke about a man who felt invisible his entire life. People interrupted him when he spoke. No one took his ideas seriously, his family took him for granted, and the worst part was that he believed he deserved it. But everything changed when he began to embody the principles of self-respect. 6 months later, he found himself with new confidence, new respect, and a new life. The world hadn't changed. He had. And that is precisely what will happen to you if you listen carefully to what follows. Because what you are about to hear is not theory. It's the result of deep psychological exploration into the mechanisms of self-worth, human behavior, and transformation. This works, always, when you apply it correctly. Respect yourself, or the world will crush you. Let's begin with a fundamental truth that can shift your entire inner paradigm. You teach people how to treat you. Every word you speak, every decision you make, every action you take is a signal sent to the world about how much you believe you are worth. The problem is that most people send the wrong signals without realizing it. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How many times have you allowed someone to cross your boundaries just to avoid conflict? How often have you placed everyone else's needs above your own until you are completely drained? Every time you do that, you are teaching the world that you don't respect yourself. And when you fail to respect yourself, you silently grant others permission to do the same. It's a psychological law, inevitable and without exception. But here's the good news. Just as you've taught people not to respect you, you can re-educate them to do so. Yet this begins within. It starts with what Jung called the revolution of the inner self, an awakening of inner authority. When I began my own journey, I was at the bottom, broke, lost, invisible to the world. But I made a single decision that changed everything. I decided that no matter my circumstances, I would treat myself with absolute respect. I would speak to myself with dignity, hold myself to high standards, and honor the promises I made to my own soul. I would care for my mind, my body, and my spirit as if they were sacred, because they are. And here's the fascinating part. When I changed how I treated myself, the world changed how it treated me. Opportunities appeared, people began to listen, and doors that had long been shut began to open. Not because the world suddenly became kind, but because I changed the signal I was sending. Now let's explore how this transformation works psychologically. Your mind contains a mechanism called the reticular activating system. It acts as a filter that decides what information reaches your awareness, and this filter is programmed by your self-image. If your self-image says you are worthy of respect, your mind begins to notice and attract experiences that confirm that belief. But if your self-image says you are undeserving, your mind will filter in the opposite direction, reinforcing your own lack of worth. So, how do you reprogram your self-image? It starts with brutal self-honesty. You must take inventory of your life and identify every place where you are failing to respect yourself. Be honest, painfully honest. Are you in a relationship where you are constantly diminished? In a job where your value is ignored? Surrounded by friends who only appear when they need something from you? Are you neglecting your physical health, ignoring your dreams? Your subconscious already knows where you have betrayed yourself, but until you consciously face it, you cannot change it. Jung once described a woman who lived 25 years in a relationship where she was constantly criticized, dismissed, and made to feel small. When asked why she stayed, she said she feared being alone, that this was the best she could ever have, and that leaving would mean admitting she had wasted her life. But every day she stayed, she reinforced the belief that she was unworthy of more. She was trapped, not by her partner, but by her own lack of self-respect. When she finally walked away, everything began to shift. Years later, she found someone who treated her with the respect she had always deserved, but only after she learned to respect herself first. This brings us to the second fundamental principle. Self-respect requires courage, not comfort. Most people choose the comfort of the familiar, even when it's painful, over the discomfort of the unknown, even when it holds the possibility of freedom. That is why so many remain in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, and patterns that slowly destroy them. The path of transformation begins when you dare to choose yourself, not from arrogance, but from a deep understanding that your worth is not negotiable. Because as Jung taught, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. But let me tell you something I've learned after studying the psychology of some of the most accomplished human beings to ever walk this planet. Every truly successful person has had to make uncomfortable, even painful decisions just to remain in alignment with themselves. They've had to say no when it was far easier to say yes. They've had to walk away from toxic situations, even when fear whispered that they would lose everything. They've had to draw boundaries that cost them relationships. They've had to stand up for themselves even when it led to conflict. And here lies a profound truth that Carl Jung would emphasize. Every time you choose courage over comfort, your self-respect expands. And every time you choose comfort over courage, it withers. It's that simple and that powerful. Now let's move to the third principle, which Jung considered essential to individuation. Self-respect manifests through your personal standards. The standards you hold for yourself are the external reflection of your inner sense of worth. And here lies the real problem. Most people don't have standards. They have hopes. They have wishes. They have preferences, but no sacred, non-negotiable standards. Let me give you a clear example. If you hold the standard that your body is sacred and deserves care, you won't try to exercise when you have time. You'll make movement a non-negotiable ritual. If your standard is that your mind deserves nourishment, you won't waste hours consuming meaningless entertainment. If your standard is that you deserve relationships rooted in mutual respect, you will not tolerate abuse, no matter the form it takes. Do you see the difference? Standards are the invisible lines that define your essence. They are declarations carved into the soul, saying who you are and what you allow into your reality. When you establish real standards and uphold them with integrity, something alchemical happens. You become unstoppable. I remember when I made the decision to set a standard of excellence in my own work. I told myself, everything that comes from me will be of the highest quality possible. No exceptions. In the beginning, it meant long hours. It meant saying no to projects that didn't align with that ideal. It meant investing in my growth, even when it seemed irrational. But I stayed loyal to that inner law. Over time, That standard became my reputation, and my reputation became my greatest asset. Now reflect on your own life. Do you have clear standards for how people are allowed to speak to you? Do you have standards for how you spend your time? Do you have standards for the quality of your creations, for the kind of person you are becoming? Because if you don't, you're drifting without direction, letting the external world and the opinions of others steer your destiny. And that, as Jung would say, is the opposite of self-realization. Now comes the fourth principle. Self-respect is expressed through your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself is the way you treat your own soul. Yet most people talk to themselves in ways they would never allow from anyone else. They call themselves failures. They tell themselves they're not enough. They attack their own being for every mistake and constantly compare their lives to others, always finding themselves lacking. This Jung would describe as psychic violence, a subtle but destructive form of self-abuse. And until you stop it, you will never cultivate true self-respect. Let me give you a simple but powerful technique I've taught to countless people. The best friend rule. Every time you catch yourself engaging in negative self-talk, ask, would I say this to my best friend? If the answer is no, then don't say it to yourself. Your subconscious mind does not distinguish between a joke and a command. Every word you speak to yourself becomes a suggestion that the psyche begins to believe. So if you keep repeating, I'm a failure, your subconscious will begin to look for evidence to prove it. If you keep saying, I'm not enough, you will unconsciously sabotage your own progress to remain consistent with that belief. But here's the exciting part. This law works both ways. If you begin to speak to yourself with respect, affirmation, and encouragement, your subconscious will start seeking evidence that you are capable, valuable, and deserving. You'll begin to act in ways that align with this new self-image. So from now on, I want you to make this commitment with me. Speak to yourself as if you were your own wisest and most compassionate mentor, because that is exactly what you must become. Carl Jung taught that the voice we use to talk to ourselves shapes the entire structure of our psyche. The words you repeat become the symbols that form your inner world. The fifth principle is this. Self-respect requires that you keep the promises you make to yourself. It's one of the most powerful, yet most underestimated ways of building inner strength. Each time you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you send a profound message to your unconscious. My words have value. My commitments mean something. I can trust myself. But every time you make a promise and break it, you send the opposite message. I can't rely on myself. My word is empty. I lack discipline. And that's where the problem lies. Most people make grand promises they never truly intend to keep. I'll lose 20 kilos this year. I'll write that book. I'll start that business. And when they inevitably fail to follow through, their self-respect erodes a little more each time. The solution isn't to stop making promises. It's to make smaller promises and keep them religiously. If you want to lose 20 kilos, don't promise to transform your body in 3 months. Promise yourself you'll walk for 20 minutes today. Then do it. Tomorrow, make the same promise and keep it again. Over time, these small, fulfilled promises build a solid foundation of self-trust and self-respect. You become someone who can depend on themselves, and when you can depend on yourself, your entire life begins to transform. Now let me share the sixth principle, one that will challenge many of you. Self-respect means protecting your energy relentlessly. Your energy, not your time or your money, is your most sacred resource. It is your life force, the essence of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual vitality. And right now, there are people, situations, and activities in your life draining that energy without giving anything back. You have people who are like emotional black holes. Every conversation with them leaves you exhausted, heavy, and negative. They don't give energy, they consume it. You have activities in your schedule that contribute nothing to your growth, your happiness, or your purpose. You say yes to these things out of guilt, obligation, or fear, not because you truly want to. You tolerate situations that keep you trapped in constant stress, anxiety, or frustration, convincing yourself that's just how life is. But let me be clear. Allowing your energy to be drained without setting boundaries is not kindness, generosity, or goodness. It's a lack of self-respect. People who respect themselves guard their energy fiercely. They say no without guilt. They walk away from negativity without needing to explain. They remove what doesn't serve them without apologizing. And as a result, they have the strength and clarity to invest their energy in what truly matters: their growth, their meaningful relationships, their dreams, and their inner peace. Now imagine this. What would your life look like if you reclaimed all the energy you're currently wasting on things that don't matter? What could you create? What could you achieve? Who could you become? Here comes the seventh principle, and this one is profound. Self-respect requires defending your truth, even when it's unpopular. We live in a culture where there's immense pressure to conform, to blend in, to avoid making waves. As a result, millions of people live lives that do not reflect who they truly are. They wear masks, say what others want to hear, and hide their real opinions, values, and beliefs out of fear of rejection or conflict. But here's the devastating truth. Every time you betray your truth to be accepted by others, you betray yourself. And that inner betrayal destroys your self-respect faster than anything else. Jung said that the greatest tragedy of the modern soul is to live a life that does not belong to you. I once knew a man who spent 20 years in corporate finance because that's what his family expected of him. But his true passion was music. Finally, at 45, he had the courage to admit his truth, not just to his family, but to himself. He left his corporate job and began teaching music. His income dropped drastically. His family criticized him. His friends thought he was going through a midlife crisis. But he told me something I will never forget. Carl Jung once said that the greatest act of self-respect is to live in alignment with your inner truth. For the first time in my adult life, I finally understand what that means. I respect myself because I'm living according to who I truly am, not who others thought I should be. That is the true power of standing by your own truth. It's not easy, it's rarely comfortable, and yes, you may lose some relationships along the way, but what you gain in return is infinitely more valuable. Your integrity, your authenticity, your self-respect. So ask yourself, where in your life are you living a lie? Where are you pretending to be someone you're not? Where are you hiding from your truth? And most importantly, how much is that costing you in terms of your own respect? Jung taught that self-respect is not a fixed state, but a living force that grows with inner expansion. The moment you stop growing, you begin to die. Not physically, at least not immediately, but spiritually and emotionally. When growth stops, self-respect decays, because deep inside, you know you're not living up to your potential. People who truly respect themselves are committed to continuous growth. They read, they learn, They challenge their own limits. They step beyond comfort over and over again. They invest in their personal and spiritual development, not to prove anything to the world, but to prove something to themselves, that they are capable of becoming more than what they currently are. And here lies something beautiful. Every time you learn something new, every time you develop a new skill, every time you overcome a challenge, your self-respect expands because you're showing yourself that you are capable of evolution, transformation, and excellence. Let me ask you, when was the last time you did something for the first time? When was the last time you learned something new? When was the last time you challenged yourself in a meaningful way? If it's been months or years, it's no wonder your self-respect feels low. Deep down, you know you've been settling. You know you've been playing small. You know there's more within you, waiting to be expressed. Put this into practice now. Commit to learning something new this week. Read a book about a subject that fascinates you. Take an online course. Practice a skill that intimidates you. It doesn't matter what you choose. What matters is that you move, that you grow, that you evolve. Now the next principle, self-respect, requires that you care for your body as the sacred temple that it is. It is the vessel through which you experience life itself, the container of your mind, your heart, and your spirit. The way you treat your body is a direct reflection of how much you value and respect yourself. When you neglect your body with toxic foods, lack of movement, poor rest, or harmful habits, you're sending a very clear message that you've forgotten your own worth. My well-being doesn't matter. My health isn't a priority. My body doesn't deserve to be cared for. But when you treat your body with respect, when you feed it nourishing food, when you move it regularly, when you give it the rest it needs, when you keep it strong and functional, you are sending an entirely different message. I value myself. My health matters. I deserve to feel good in my body. And let me tell you something from my own experience. When you begin to care for your body, everything else in your life begins to improve as well. You gain more energy, more mental clarity, more confidence, and more discipline that naturally spills over into every other area of your existence. You don't need to become a professional athlete. You don't need the perfect body. That's not what Carl Jung was referring to when he spoke of the unity between body and soul. What matters is that you treat your body with the basic respect it deserves. Walking every day, eating real food instead of processed products, getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, going to medical checkups. These are practical and tangible ways of telling your unconscious mind, I am worth caring for. And every time you do it, your self-respect strengthens. Carl Jung taught that the way we treat our physical form is a reflection of how we treat our inner being. The 10th principle is that self-respect means forgiving yourself for your past mistakes. This is one of the greatest barriers for most people. They carry guilt, shame, and regret for things they did years or even decades ago. And that heavy burden destroys their self-respect because they keep punishing themselves for who they were instead of honoring who they are becoming. But let me tell you something with absolute certainty. You cannot build an exceptional future while being chained to a past filled with self-judgment. You cannot respect yourself while constantly reminding yourself of your failures, your mistakes, your embarrassing moments. Forgiving yourself does not mean justifying your past behavior. It means recognizing that you were a different person back then, with a different level of consciousness, different circumstances, different tools. It means learning from those experiences without remaining trapped in them. It means granting yourself permission to evolve. Jung often said that transformation begins the moment you accept your shadow, the hidden part of you that carries your wounds and regrets. I've known people who have done terrible things in their past, things they deeply regret, but those who managed to transform their lives were the ones who could say, "Yes, I did that. I regret it deeply. I've learned from it, and now I'm a different person. I will not allow that past mistake to define my future." That kind of honesty requires immense courage, but it is also the only way to reclaim your self-respect after major errors. So, what are you still carrying from your past that you need to release? What mistakes do you finally need to forgive yourself for? What old shame is stealing your self-worth in the present? Pause for a moment and think about this right now. Then, make the conscious decision to let it go. Not because what you did was right, but because continuing to punish yourself serves no one, especially not you. Now let me share the 11th principle, and this one is profoundly transformative. Self-respect flourishes in productive solitude. We live in an era of constant distraction. People are so attached to their devices, so consumed by noise, so surrounded by external stimulation that they have completely lost contact with themselves. And when you lose touch with yourself, you lose self-respect, because you no longer know who you are beneath all the expectations, roles, and masks. Those who possess deep self-respect make regular time for solitude, not lonely isolation, but intentional solitude. Time alone to think, reflect, process, reconnect with their values, evaluate their direction, and listen to their inner wisdom. This practice of productive solitude allows you to ask the essential questions that your unconscious has been waiting for you to hear. It's in that silence, free from noise and comparison, that you begin to meet the real you, the one Jung said is not the mask you show the world, but the soul that has been patiently waiting for you to return home. Am I living in alignment with my values? Are my actions consistent with my words? Am I truly becoming the person I aspire to be? Am I honoring myself in every area of my life? Without this constant self-reflection, we don't live consciously, we merely react to existence. And as Carl Jung taught, one cannot achieve true self-respect while living in a reactive state. Therefore, make this commitment to yourself. Create regular moments of solitude in your life. It could be early in the morning before the world awakens, a quiet walk at the end of the day, or a personal retreat once a month. The structure doesn't matter. What matters is that you make space for it, because it's in those moments of stillness that your true self begins to speak. Listening to that inner voice is one of the deepest acts of self-respect a person can perform. Self-respect, Jung would say, is expressed through the boundaries you establish. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep others away. They are frameworks designed to preserve your psychological integrity. They are clear declarations of what is acceptable and what is not within your reality. After decades of observing the human psyche, Jung concluded that those who possess self-respect also possess strong boundaries. Those who lack self-respect either have none or constantly abandon them. Let's look at this clearly. If you decide your personal time is sacred, you don't answer work emails at midnight. If you decide that you deserve basic respect, you don't allow others to yell at you or speak to you with contempt. If you believe relationships must be reciprocal, you stop investing in those who are emotionally unavailable. But here lies the real challenge. Setting boundaries is simple. Maintaining them is where most people collapse. Because enforcing boundaries often demands uncomfortable conversations, creates tension, or leads to the loss of relationships. And many prefer betraying their own limits rather than facing discomfort. Yet every time they do, they betray themselves, and that silent betrayal slowly corrodes their self-worth. Those who truly respect themselves understand that maintaining boundaries is not optional. It is essential. They are willing to face conflict. They are willing to lose relationships that demand the sacrifice of their values. They are even willing to be misunderstood or disliked if that means staying true to their inner integrity. And as a result, they live lives aligned with their authentic essence. Lives that honor their needs, their values, and their well-being. Now, imagine if you began today, right now, to establish and protect clear boundaries. How would your life transform? Think about that deeply. Let me end with a final story. Years ago, I received a letter from a man, 58 years old. He wrote, "Carl Jung, I spent most of my life trying to earn the respect of my father, my boss, and my community. But it was never enough. There was always something more to prove, something more to achieve. I became exhausted and empty. Then I heard you say something that changed everything. The only respect that truly matters is the one you give yourself." In that moment, he realized that his endless pursuit of external validation came from the absence of inner validation. And from that awareness, everything began to change. That's the fundamental truth I want you to carry with you today. The outer world mirrors how you treat yourself. If you respect yourself deeply, the world will mirror that respect. If you value yourself, life will respond with value. If you set high standards for who you are, existence will rise to meet them. But it must begin with you. You must decide right now that you will treat yourself with absolute respect, that you will speak to yourself with kindness, that you will defend your limits, that you will keep your promises, that you will protect your energy, live your truth, and honor your body. Because when you do, you awaken the most sacred reflection of all. The world respecting you exactly as you respect yourself. You are going to forgive your past mistakes. You are going to keep growing. And when you do that consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month, something extraordinary will begin to unfold. You will transform into someone entirely different, someone who moves through the world with dignity, confidence, and quiet power. A person who no longer seeks validation from others because they have found an unshakable validation within. A person who the world naturally respects because they first learned to respect themselves. And let me tell you this journey never truly ends. Self-respect, as Carl Jung would remind us, is not a destination you arrive at. It is a daily practice, a continuous commitment, a conscious choice made moment by moment, situation by situation, decision by decision. There will be days when you fail, moments when you betray your own boundaries, times when you say yes when your soul wanted to say no. There will be nights when your inner voice turns harsh instead of compassionate. And that's okay, because self-respect is not about perfection. It's about direction. What truly matters is not that you never fall, but that when you realize you've strayed from your path, you find the courage to acknowledge it, the compassion to forgive yourself, and the strength to choose better next time. With each wiser choice, your self-respect grows stronger. With every boundary you hold firm, your confidence expands. With every promise you keep to yourself, your integrity deepens. With every act of self-care, your sense of worth becomes more profound. It's like building a muscle. At first, it's weak. Every repetition feels demanding, each effort conscious and deliberate. But if you persist, if you stay consistent, that muscle strengthens, and eventually, what once required tremendous effort becomes natural. It becomes effortless, instinctive, simply part of who you are. Now, before we finish, I want you to do something with me. I want you to make a decision, not a passing thought or a vague wish, but a genuine commitment. Think of one specific area in your life where you haven't been respecting yourself. Maybe it's a toxic relationship you've been tolerating. Maybe it's a job that's been draining your spirit. Maybe it's a destructive habit that's been harming your health. Maybe it's a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Or perhaps it's a dream you've been postponing because fear has kept you paralyzed. Do you have it in mind? Good. Now here's what I want you to do. Decide right now that within the next 48 hours, you will take one concrete step to honor yourself in that area. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. In fact, it's better if it's a small but meaningful action. Something you can complete. Something that proves to yourself that your words carry weight, that your commitments matter, that you are taking back control of your life. Maybe it's making that difficult phone call. Maybe it's setting that boundary you've avoided for too long. Maybe it's signing up for that class, having that honest conversation, or simply writing on a piece of paper, "I deserve respect." Starting with my own, whatever it is, what truly matters is that you do it, because action is where transformation truly happens, not in knowledge, not in inspiration, not in good intentions, but in action itself. And when you finally take that action, you will feel something you may not have felt in a long time. Genuine pride in yourself. Not arrogant pride, but authentic pride. The deep satisfaction that comes from keeping your word to yourself, from honoring your worth, from respecting yourself enough to act. And that feeling will become your fuel. It will push you to take another action, and then another, and then another. And before you even realize it, your entire life will have changed, because you have changed. Now, if this message has resonated with you today, if you've felt something move within you, if you've recognized truths about yourself that you've been avoiding, then I want to ask you to do one more thing. Subscribe to this channel, because my commitment is to bring you consistent content that helps you reach your highest potential, to live with integrity, to build a life truly worth living. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos, because we will go deep into every aspect of personal success, productivity, leadership, relationships, financial prosperity, spiritual growth, everything you need to create an extraordinary life. But it all begins with self-respect. That is the foundation. Without that foundation, everything you build will be unstable, fragile, and vulnerable. But with that solid foundation of self-respect, you can build anything, face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and create any result you desire in your life. Because when you profoundly respect yourself, when you recognize your inherent worth, when you defend your integrity without apology, you become an unstoppable force. The world has no choice but to respond with respect, because you've set the standard. And let me tell you something else. The world desperately needs people who respect themselves, because those who respect themselves respect others. Those who value themselves value others. Those who set healthy boundaries for themselves honor the boundaries of others. Those who speak kindly to themselves speak kindly to others. In other words, your self-respect is not just for you. It's a gift you give to the world. It's a form of leadership, a form of teaching, a form of inspiring others to do the same. Imagine a world where every person deeply respected themselves. What would that world look like? There would be less abuse, because people would refuse to be abused. There would be less manipulation, because people would not allow themselves to be manipulated. There would be less mediocrity, because people would not settle for less than what they're capable of. There would be more authenticity, more integrity, more excellence, more genuine love. That world begins with you. Your self-respect is your contribution to building that better world. So I'll leave you with this. Remember that you are one decision away from transforming your entire life. One decision, not 10, not 100, just one. The decision to respect yourself unconditionally from this moment forward. That decision will change everything. It will change how you talk to yourself. It will change what you tolerate in your relationships. It will change how you invest your time. It will change what kind of opportunities you attract. It will change how you respond to conflict, how you show up in the world. It will change your entire destiny. But that decision can only be made by one person. You. No one can make it for you. No one can give you self-respect. No one can force you to value yourself. It is your choice, your responsibility, your power. And if you are ready to make that decision, if you are ready to commit to your own worth, to defend your dignity, to live with unshakable integrity, then hear me when I say this. Welcome to your new life. A life where you are no longer a victim of circumstances, but a conscious creator of your own experience. A life where you no longer seek external validation, but radiate inner validation. A life where you no longer settle for crumbs, but claim the abundance you deserve. A life where you no longer play small, but expand into your full greatness. That life is waiting for you, not in the future, not when you have more money, not when you lose weight, not when you find the perfect job or partner. It's waiting for you now, today, in this very moment. Because self-respect is not something you earn, it's something you decide. And once you decide it, everything changes. So decide now, act today, and watch how the entire world begins to treat you differently. Not because the world changed, but because you changed the signal you are sending. Remember, respect yourself, or the world will crush you. It's that simple, that powerful, that true. The choice is yours. It always has been, and it always will be. Go forward. Make that decision. Live that decision. Be that decision. Your extraordinary life is waiting. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep your integrity, honor your worth, and never, ever settle for less than the absolute respect you deserve. This is Carl Jung, reminding you that within you, right now, lies everything you need to create the life you desire. All you have to do is recognize it, claim it, and respect it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing this time in yourself. That act alone is an act of self-respect, and it is the beginning of everything that comes next. Now go and respect yourself like never before. The world is waiting to see who you truly are once you finally give yourself permission to shine in all your magnitude. Have you ever felt that something is shifting within you, even if you can't quite explain it? It's not just about the external world changing. It goes deeper than that. It's a subtle but powerful transformation that begins as a vibration inside you, a kind of inner pause between different versions of yourself. You can feel that you no longer fit into the mold of who you used to be. Yet, at the same time, The version of you that you are becoming hasn't fully arrived either. It's as if you're in a liminal space, suspended between what was and what is about to be. Outwardly, everything might seem the same. Life may appear to be moving as usual. But inside, within your heart and soul, there are signs, brief moments, sudden impulses, unexpected emotions. It's as though the universe is working silently, behind the scenes, gently reorganizing your path. It's not chaos, it's divine order. It's preparing to hand you something that your eyes can't yet see, but your spirit already senses. This process isn't about desiring more. It's not about craving or chasing. It's about becoming. It's about being prepared internally to hold what's coming. Because what's on its way is not small, it's immense, and it requires space, strength, and alignment. Without realizing it, you're becoming that space. You're being shaped to receive something greater than anything you've held before. The first signal, you may have started to feel a subtle distance from certain people, habits, or environments that once felt like home. But it's not rejection. It's not anger. There's no conflict or bitterness. Something within you has simply moved away. Silently, peacefully, without fanfare. It's as if your soul is walking ahead, whispering that it no longer belongs in places that don't resonate with your new frequency. And you can't force yourself to stay. You can't pretend anymore. You can't fake belonging where your spirit no longer feels alive. Even if your mind doesn't fully understand it, your heart accepts it with quiet grace. This isn't loss, it's release. You're not being left behind, you're being freed. Because the universe does not build new beginnings on foundations that are no longer true. To bring the new into your life, it must first create space. This detachment isn't impulsive, it's not rebellion, it's a silent retreat, natural, organic. You find that you no longer need to explain yourself. No dramatic exits, no justifications. Something simply feels complete. The chapter has ended. What once held you is now holding you back. What once filled you is now too heavy to carry. And instead of resisting, you're letting go. Not from logic, but from a soul-deep knowing. This sense of detachment might feel strange, even uncomfortable, but it isn't emptiness. It's preparation. You are being gently stripped of what cannot journey with you to your next level. Not because it was wrong, but because it has already fulfilled its role. You've stopped trying to fit into dynamics that no longer nourish you. Something deep within knows that something greater is coming. Something that cannot arrive if you're still holding on to the things that shrink you. And this kind of letting go doesn't make you colder. It makes you clearer. Your decisions begin to align with your truth. You start saying no without guilt. You walk away without drama. And you do it not from ego, but from inner wisdom. Your energy is changing. And it's not random. It's a message. It's preparation. The universe is not taking from you. It's aligning you. When you release what no longer resonates, you're saying, even without words, I'm ready. Ready for what's next, even if you can't name it yet. That silent gesture you make within, though invisible, moves unseen forces. Even if you don't yet understand why certain doors are closing, one day you'll realize they were never rejections, they were redirections. The space you are creating is precisely where something greater needed to enter. And here's the miracle. This inner release does not leave you feeling empty, but strangely at peace. It's as if, without meaning to, you've aligned yourself with a greater rhythm. As if what you're releasing isn't taking pieces of you, but letting go of outdated versions that no longer serve you. You're not losing anything essential. On the contrary, you are arriving at your essence. This entire process feels like a silent cleansing. People may drift away without conflict. Opportunities may fall through without clear reasons. Paths that once looked solid may vanish overnight. And yet, instead of clinging, you exhale. And that breath, so small, so quiet, is a profound sign that you are ready. Because those who trust what leaves are already prepared to receive what's coming. Your sensitivity deepens. You no longer tolerate the superficial, the artificial, or anything born from fear. You begin to crave truth, realness. You seek connections that are rooted, not convenient. You long for silences that feel safe, not awkward. Your soul is no longer interested in distraction. It craves expansion. And this calling, it's not coincidence. It's not whim. It's response. Because the universe doesn't only hear your words, it listens to your frequency. When you shift what you carry inside, everything around you begins to shift as well. Even when nostalgia tries to pull you back to what you've released, a deeper part of you knows you can't return. Not because you don't want to, but because you don't fit anymore. You no longer betray yourself just to belong. You no longer force comfort where there is none. And that alone is an act of spiritual maturity. You're not giving up. You're growing up. You're not running away. You're recognizing that what is truly great cannot be built on what denies your truth. You are not just releasing. You are claiming. You are reclaiming the space that is yours by divine design. And then something else becomes clear. This entire unfolding has its own rhythm, far removed from your logical mind. There are days when you feel illuminated, aligned, and there are others where everything feels paused, unclear. You wonder why things seem stalled, why so much seems to be in limbo. But deep inside, you know, you're not stuck, you're being rewritten. Because when the universe is preparing something magnificent, it silences the noise. It slows down the chaos. Not as punishment, but so you can finally hear what's rising from your own depths. You don't react the way you used to. Your response to endings is no longer resistance. It's awareness. Even through the pain, you choose to let go with intention. You've come to understand that what is being deactivated in your life isn't being taken. It's being replaced by something that aligns more completely with who you truly are. And though you may not be able to describe it yet, you carry that quiet certainty with you. You've begun to live not from the surface, but from vibration. And anything that doesn't feel real simply falls away. What isn't sustained by the soul loses its power, and you no longer try to hold on to it. Because something within you, deeper than logic, older than memory, knows that every ending now is making room for a greater beginning. You cannot force this process. You can only honor it. And it is in that honoring that you become something sacred. You become space. Space for what is real, for what is vast, for what is truly in tune with who you are now. And this doesn't happen because you wished for it. It happens because you are ready to hold it. Because without even realizing, your soul already said yes, and the universe, in its invisible, perfect language, is already responding. The second sign, you begin to experience unexpected pauses, projects that come to a halt without warning, plans that get postponed without a clear reason. Paths that once seemed defined suddenly become uncertain and blurred. At first, it's frustrating. You feel like things are falling apart, or like you're doing something wrong. But over time, something inside you begins to shift. You stop interpreting the pause as a blockage or failure. Instead, you begin to see it for what it truly is, a signal, a moment of divine recalibration. You begin to understand that there is something sacred within stillness, something you cannot force, no matter how much effort or desire you pour into it. The universe, when preparing you for something truly significant, doesn't rush you. It doesn't push you to accelerate. Instead, it pauses you, not to stop you permanently, but to strengthen you deeply, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because the most profound growth often happens in the silence, in the stillness, in the waiting. This pause is not a delay. It is a sacred transition. And you, who have finally learned to stay present in that pause, are being restructured from the inside out. In the beginning, those periods of stagnation disturbed you. You felt like you were wasting time, like you had lost your direction, like maybe you had made a mistake somewhere along the way. But then, in the silence that stretched between what once was and what had yet to arrive, something started to become visible. Not a clear answer, not a defined path, but a new kind of stability, a peace that did not depend on circumstances, but emerged from within. This newfound stability wasn't something the world gave you. It was something your soul cultivated as it adjusted itself. Because when the universe prepares you for greatness, it doesn't merely offer you time, it reconfigures you completely. And to do that, it needs you to stop running. It requires you to be still long enough for all the pieces to align without you having to force them into place. During that pause, your perception starts to shift. You begin to see things you previously ignored. You start to hear your inner voice without interference, to recognize yourself without the noise of others' expectations. And even though that shift is subtle, almost invisible, it changes everything. You also come to understand a powerful truth. Not everything that stops is broken. Some processes need time to mature, quietly, beneath the surface. Just like roots grow in darkness before a plant breaks through the soil, some directions in life are realigning themselves in ways you cannot yet see. Not because you're off course, but because you are being gently, lovingly redirected towards something your mind cannot yet conceive. And in place of resistance, you choose to inhabit the pause. You make peace with the quiet. And right there, in that exact moment of surrender, the universe starts to open a new door for you. The pause acts like a cleansing force. It removes everything you are maintaining out of desperation or anxiety. It clears away what was sustained by urgency, by empty expectations, by restless striving. You stop acting just to fill a void. You stop moving out of fear of standing still. You learn to sit with yourself without distractions, and in doing so, you become something more, a clearer channel for what's meant for you. Because here's the truth. The universe does not deposit greatness into chaotic spaces. It entrusts it to those who have made a home within themselves. The more you surrender to the pause, the more clarity you receive. Not in the form of dramatic revelations, but as a quiet knowing that roots itself in your decisions, as a deeper intuition, as a wisdom that doesn't come from thinking, but from feeling. And in that feeling, everything that once seemed stalled begins to make sense. This is not about passively waiting for something to happen. It's about realizing that you are what's about to happen. It's about becoming the very thing you were hoping would arrive. You begin to realize that this pause hasn't been isolating you. It's been preserving you. It's not that opportunities have stopped showing up, or that the right people aren't appearing, or that answers are being withheld. Number, it's that you are being protected. Protected because what's on its way requires the clearest, truest, most refined version of you. You cannot hold on to something big while remaining in the same state that held on to the small. Expansion requires a shedding. It requires space. It requires stillness. And that stillness, though it may not always be comfortable, becomes a sanctuary, a sacred space where you stop defining yourself by what you do or what you achieve, and start valuing yourself simply for being. Even when nothing is happening on the outside, you discover you don't need to constantly produce to feel worthy. That progress doesn't have to be visible every day to be meaningful. That true growth often doesn't make noise, but it leaves a profound imprint on the soul. And that deep inner feeling, that quiet inner shift, is a sign of transformation, one that is silently but powerfully taking place. You begin to see that the pause is not an empty void. It is a place of gestation. Something is forming, not around you, but within you. Your perspective begins to change. You see time differently. You experience the moment differently. You stop reacting the way you used to. You stop fighting what no longer flows. You no longer measure your life based on visible movement. Now, you know that even what stands still is still working, still shaping, still guiding. In this stillness, you learn to distinguish what's urgent from what's true. You no longer leap at every impulse. You no longer allow the pressures of the world to dictate your pace. Something in you has slowed down, not out of weakness, but out of depth. And in that depth, you begin to resonate with what is truly yours. What is coming is not more of the same. It is something entirely different, because now you are different. And this is where the realization settles in fully. The pause was never about waiting. It was about preparation. You weren't being stopped. You were being tuned. Your soul was expanding, stretching, to be able to hold what's coming with courage, with clarity, and without fear. And that, even though it still hasn't fully manifested, already feels like a silent call inside you. A vibration that doesn't need to be explained. A knowing that doesn't come from logic, but from alignment. Something big is approaching, and this time, you are truly ready to receive it. The third sign is when you begin to notice that your sensitivity to the invisible is growing. You start perceiving things that used to slip right past your awareness. The energy of a place, the emotional state of a person, even if they don't say a word. You start picking up on subtle cues in your environment that tell you whether something is meant for you or not. And this isn't imagination or suggestion, it's refined perception. This heightened sensitivity isn't random, it's part of your preparation. The universe doesn't just give you something great and then leave you to figure it out on your own. It trains you to be able to hold, carry, and sustain it. That's why, before what you've been waiting for arrives, you go through a process of inner refinement. You are being shaped into someone who feels more deeply, who senses more clearly, who knows when to pause, not because the world tells you to, but because your soul does. Even when the world urges you to keep going, that inner whisper tells you to stop, to listen, to align. This new sensitivity wasn't something you consciously chose. It simply began to intensify on its own. Things you once tolerated now make you uncomfortable. What used to go unnoticed now echoes deeply within you. You feel it in conversations charged with energy, in places that feel misaligned, in decisions that don't sit right, often before your rational mind has even had a chance to catch up. At first, it may confuse you, But soon you begin to understand. It's not confusion, it's connection. You're starting to read reality from a different layer. You no longer see only what happens on the surface. You begin to feel what lies underneath. You sense the unspoken, the subtle vibrations, the truth behind the words. You notice what energy is communicating before any words are said. And yes, at times, this may make you feel isolated, but that too is part of the process. It's not because you're meant to disconnect from the world, but because you need clarity. You need to know what truly belongs to you and what doesn't. The universe is training you in the subtle realms, in a kind of intelligence that cannot be taught in books, but is remembered by the soul. This elevated sensitivity is not a weakness, it is a tool, because the greatness that is coming is not meant to passively belong to you. It is meant to move through you. And if you're not attuned, if you don't know how to listen, how to stop when something feels off, you might get lost in the noise. That's why now, more than ever, you feel everything so strongly. Not because you're more fragile, but because you're more awake. And with this increased sensitivity comes a new way to protect yourself. You no longer need lengthy explanations to walk away from something that feels incoherent. You no longer feel the need to justify your boundaries. You don't have to explain to the world why something doesn't resonate with you. You feel it, and that is enough. Your body has become an antenna, your soul a compass, and you are starting to trust. Even on the days when everything feels overwhelming, you know deep inside that none of this is a mistake. You're going through an internal expansion. That overwhelming openness is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of readiness, because only someone who can feel deeply is capable of holding something truly meaningful. And you, who have silently sensed this transformation for a long time, are now being finely tuned to receive it. You're also beginning to notice that this new sensitivity not only helps you detect what's not meant for you, it powerfully connects you to what is. There are moments when you walk into a place and feel instant peace, without knowing why. Conversations that are brief but ignite something in your soul. Projects that have barely started, yet you feel their purpose vibrating through you. That kind of certainty doesn't come from your mind. It comes from a deeper part of you that is becoming clearer, sharper, more aligned. And this doesn't happen because you've learned more. It happens because you're less distracted, less conditioned, less disconnected from your essence. In this quiet preparation, the universe has been removing what numbed you, not as punishment, but as a way to bring you back to your center. Because only from that place can you truly recognize what is meant for you. You also start to realize that you can no longer tolerate almost half-truths, half-hearted connections, lukewarm decisions. They now feel unbearable. What once was mildly annoying is now impossible to ignore. But this isn't intolerance, it's clarity. Your soul has become too precise to pretend, too real to entertain what doesn't match the frequency of who you are now. And yes, that might hurt at times, but it's also protection. It's a sign. What's coming doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be authentic. And that's why the universe is refining your perception until you can only move toward what is in alignment. There is no more room for what doesn't resonate, no more space for what feeds your ego but leaves your soul starving. You're being refined for the real. And in the midst of that intensity, something else begins to arrive, a new kind of calm. Because when you finally stop forcing yourself to carry what doesn't vibrate with you, your energy begins to align, and your life begins to breathe again. You, who used to doubt every instinct, now recognize a true yes the moment it appears. You know it without thinking. Your body confirms it. Your energy expands. There is no need to convince yourself anymore. And in that vulnerable yet grounded state, soft yet certain, you're being prepared, not to merely survive, not to just adapt, but to receive, hold, and channel something bigger than you, something that can only manifest through you. With this heightened sensitivity comes a deep honesty with yourself. You can no longer ignore your feelings. You can no longer remain silent when something within you says no. You can no longer stay in connections out of habit or in places where your energy shrinks. Because as the universe prepares you, it makes it impossible for you to keep betraying your own truth. And though this may lead you to make difficult choices, you begin to see that each thing you let go of is actually a powerful affirmation of what you are meant to carry forward. You begin to treat your energy as sacred, not because you fear others, but because you finally respect yourself. You've learned that not everything that vibrates near you deserves to stay. Not every closeness is true connection. And your sensitivity wasn't given to you to adapt to the noise. It was given to help you create spaces where calm, authenticity, and depth can exist without masks. That kind of clarity may push some people away, but it brings the essential ones closer. And you are no longer willing to negotiate what is essential. Even your silences carry more truth now. There are things you simply stop explaining. You no longer feel the need to justify your intuition. Those who feel it will understand. Those who don't need to. Because you are no longer trying to explain yourself from a place of lack. You are standing in your truth, in what you've begun to remember, that you are here for something greater, and that greater thing cannot be built on a smaller version of who you are. The most beautiful part of all this is that your sensitivity hasn't weakened you. It has brought you back to yourself. It has reconnected you with a depth that asks for no permission, seeks no approval, and needs no explanation. You are becoming a clear, open space where the great can dwell, not just to receive, but to manifest, not just to have, but to transform. Because the universe doesn't place the sacred just anywhere. It places it where it knows it will be cared for. It delivers it into the hands of those who have learned to hold themselves even in the darkness, to those who have felt so deeply that they can now carry the weight of truth without breaking. To those like you, who have come to understand that this sensitivity is not a limitation. It is the very language your soul uses when destiny is calling. The fourth sign reveals itself in a moment of quiet clarity, when you begin to feel, perhaps for the first time, that everything you've lived through, both the beautiful and the brutal, the moments that made sense and those that never did, all start to come together, like scattered puzzle pieces, finally finding their place. It's as though something within you begins to whisper a truth you always carried, but could never quite articulate, that nothing happened without purpose, that the pain wasn't random, that the silence wasn't in vain. This isn't a mental understanding. It's not a conclusion your thoughts arrive at after long reflection. No, it's something deeper. It's an inner integration, an emotional and spiritual merging of all your past experiences. It feels like something clicking into place, not in your head, but in your chest, where emotions live. You suddenly start to feel why those moments of heartbreak occurred. You begin to sense why your soul chose paths that hurt, why you were led through long periods of stillness and emptiness. This inner alignment doesn't come with words or logical explanations. It comes as an expansion within you, a silent, powerful shift. You recall situations that once brought tears, and now, instead of pain, there is only gratitude. You revisit relationships that broke you and realize they gave you the clarity you didn't even know you were missing. You look at the pauses, the closed doors, the dead ends, not with bitterness, but with understanding. Not because your mind has figured them out, but because your soul no longer resists them. Nothing that happened was a punishment. It was all preparation. You realize that the universe was never working against you. Even in your darkest moments, even when you were drowning in despair and felt utterly alone, there was something, an invisible force, protecting you, guiding you, redirecting you, cutting the cords you didn't yet have the strength to cut, letting go of what no longer served you, even when you tried to hold on. And now, from this new place of awareness, you see that what you thought was loss was really sacred redirection. This inner union with your past changes everything. You no longer carry your story as a burden. You honor it as a sacred map. Every experience that broke you also taught you how to rebuild with more depth, more wisdom, more soul. Every goodbye created space for something truer to enter. Every silence that once filled you with rage or confusion is now the echo of a lesson that prepared you for the weight and beauty of what you're finally able to hold. What you're feeling now isn't nostalgia, it's alignment, a wordless kind of gratitude that sneaks in softly and changes the way you breathe. You no longer feel the urge to relive your past, to rewrite the script, or question your choices. You don't need to learn through pain anymore. You're stepping into a different chapter, one where your past transforms into wisdom, not weight. One where each scar on your heart becomes proof of your inner strength. Where the chaos that once disoriented you now reveals a hidden order. And that shift, subtle yet profound, is nothing short of transformation. Because when you stop wishing you could go back and change something, anything, it's a sign that you've reached a level of inner integration where your soul is finally ready for what's next. Great things don't arrive when everything is perfect. They arrive when you are at peace with imperfection, when you no longer run from the path that brought you here, but instead, you bless it. You've stopped waiting with anxiety. Now, you wait with presence. And that quiet, conscious waiting is a frequency, a vibration. The universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to your vibration, your inner state of being. And without even realizing it, you've already begun to vibrate in tune with what's on its way to you. You've also started to look at yourself through a new lens. You no longer judge yourself for who you were in earlier seasons of your life. You no longer replay your choices or torture yourself with what-ifs. Something within you has softened, not out of resignation, but out of spiritual maturity. And that softness cannot be forced. It's a sacred sign that your soul has taken a leap. Because to understand the purpose behind what you've lived is not to justify it. It's to embrace it with love. And that's what you're doing now. This integration shows up in your inner voice, in how gently you speak to yourself in moments of silence, in how you no longer pressure yourself to prove anything to anyone. You've stopped sprinting to get ahead. Now you walk intentionally and fully present, simply to inhabit the moment. You've let go of chasing ideal versions of yourself. You no longer carry other people's expectations as if they were your own. You are releasing weight, not because you are weak, but because you finally understand that your soul doesn't need to carry everything in order to move forward. And in this new lightness, something else appears: clarity. Because when you stop fighting against your own journey, the signs become visible. The answers you once searched for outside of yourself now rise from within. The questions no longer torment you, not because they've all been answered, but because they no longer matter in the same way. And you, who once lived layered beneath so many masks, so much confusion, are beginning to peel everything back and hold on to only what's essential. Every phase that once felt chaotic now reveals itself as an exact movement of your soul. Every loss, a divine opening. Every ending, a sacred preparation. And what once hurt now empowers you. Not because the pain was beautiful, but because you made it meaningful. Because you chose growth over bitterness. And that choice, that fidelity to your own becoming in the middle of chaos, is the clearest sign of all. Because what's coming isn't just arriving by destiny. It's arriving because you're now strong enough to hold it without it breaking you. Because you can now receive it without shrinking under its weight. Because you no longer crave it from a place of emptiness. You recognize it as the natural result of someone who has made space within their soul. And you, without even noticing, have already made that space. Not through sacrifice, but through alignment, through coherence, through stillness, through that unshakable certainty that doesn't need form or words, but pulses through your being and tells you, now, you are truly ready. And the fifth sign is when, without really knowing how or why, you begin to vibrate differently. You can't quite explain it. Nothing major has shifted on the outside. Your job might still be the same. Your relationships, your routine, your daily life. They all look quite similar. But deep inside, you feel it. Something has shifted. A subtle, yet profound change in your energy has taken place. You're not trying harder. You're not forcing anything. Yet, there's this undeniable sense that you're standing in a new frequency. You begin to notice that the way you perceive life has changed. Your presence is more grounded, your thoughts are more clear, and your ability to connect with others and with yourself feels deeper. It's as if something has awakened within you. You're no longer living life from the same lens. Even though your external world hasn't caught up yet, even though the people around you might not see the difference, you know you're ready. Because it's not the world that validates this transformation. It's not the circumstances or the people around you who confirm that you've made the leap. It's your inner frequency, your internal vibration, that already carries the evidence of your evolution. You can feel it pulsing in your chest, resonating in your choices, speaking through your intuition. And as that vibration rises, something powerful begins to happen. You start attracting new experiences. People you've never met before suddenly appear, drawn to the energy you're emitting. Places, opportunities, and encounters that feel aligned start flowing into your life. But this isn't happening because you're desperately searching. You're not chasing it. You're not grasping. You're simply no longer in resonance with what once was. The mismatch between who you are becoming and what you once tolerated is becoming impossible to ignore. The universe, in its quiet wisdom, has recalibrated your energy, not as a random shift, but as a deliberate preparation. You are being prepared for a life that is more authentic, more expansive, more aligned with the truth of who you've always been deep within. This new vibration of yours isn't always visible to the naked eye, but it's undeniably felt. You feel it every morning when you wake up, and there's less heaviness in your chest, more presence in your body. You feel it in your decisions, how you now choose what nourishes you without guilt or over-explaining, how you can no longer tolerate what used to drain you, how you now breathe deeper, slower, more fully, not because life is perfect, but because you found your center. You're no longer operating from urgency. You're no longer seeking validation, no longer trying to prove your worth to anyone. You simply embody it. You're becoming more attuned to how you feel and less preoccupied with how others perceive you. And that subtle inner shift, that quiet revolution within, changes everything. Because when your vibration rises, your reality responds. Not always instantly, not always dramatically, but always inevitably. You begin to witness synchronicities that once went unnoticed, encounters that feel divinely orchestrated, people who speak your soul's language, even if you've never met them before, ideas that land with a force that doesn't come from your mind, but from your vibration. And you're no longer surprised, because now you know it's not magic, it's alignment. You're seeing on the outside what you've long been cultivating within. You've cleared so much. You've let go of so much. You've chosen stillness over noise again and again. And now the universe is responding. Not as a reward, but as a reflection. Your presence is changing too. You feel it in how others respond to you. Some open up around you without even knowing why. Others quietly drift away, and you don't take it personally anymore. You understand that when your energy shifts, everything that no longer resonates must find its proper place. It's not loss, it's alignment. It's not rejection, it's vibrational clarity. And you no longer resist it. You're no longer available for what depletes you. You're now choosing to stay where you are nourished. You're no longer settling for halfway love, halfway commitment, halfway presence. You no longer give your time out of obligation. You're stepping into a new way of living, a quieter yet infinitely more powerful way, because your vibration is no longer begging. It's inviting. It's summoning what's meant for you. And the most beautiful part is, you're not waiting for something big to happen in order to feel whole. You already feel it now. You're not looking to be completed by what's to come. What's coming is not arriving to fill a void. It's coming to expand a fullness that you've already recognized within. And when that becomes your truth, you know you're ready. Because the greatness that's arriving doesn't impose itself. It meets you where you are. And you are already vibrating in alignment. When the universe prepares you for something extraordinary, it doesn't do it through noise or promises. It doesn't send loud declarations or fireworks. It prepares you with silence that transforms, with pauses that rearrange, with subtle signs that only the soul can decode. And you, who have walked through so many phases, who have remained true to your essence despite everything, are now receiving what was always meant for you. Not because you chased it, but because you became it. You don't need to understand every step. Just remember, you are not being delayed. You are being refined. You are not wasting time. You are making space. And what's on its way will not arrive through panic or pressure. It will come through truth, through alignment. And without even realizing it, you're already vibrating in that truth. If this message resonated with you, if you felt something awaken inside you with every word, it's because what's coming is already near. You don't need to strive for it. Just stay open, stay grounded, stay aligned. And if you wish to keep walking this path hand in hand with messages like this one, this space will be here for you. Because here, we don't just speak, We remember. We remember who we are, what we came for, and what's always been within us, waiting for the moment we were ready to see it. Your soul already knows the way. It just needed to hear it. Fear is perhaps the most fundamental and primitive emotion we experience as human beings. It is deeply ingrained in the very fabric of our brains, specifically within the amygdala, that ancient structure of our neural system that has ensured our survival as a species for millennia. From an evolutionary perspective, fear was absolutely essential. It alerted us to predators, kept us away from dangerous heights, and made us cautious about the unknown. For thousands of years, fear was our silent ally, the unseen guardian whispering in our ears, "Be careful, this is not safe." But here's where the paradox begins. What once protected us has now become our prison. In the modern world, where we rarely face immediate physical threats, fear has mutated. It no longer safeguards us from wild beasts or physical danger. Instead, it shields us from growth, from expansion, from new experiences, and from vulnerability itself. And this is where the first great contradiction arises. That which evolved to keep us alive is now preventing us from truly living. Yet this modern fear is not as straightforward as it seems. It operates on much subtler and more complex levels. It functions almost like a form of reverse faith. Think about it. Fear, at its core, is a belief, a deeply held certainty in something undesirable happening. It is believing with absolute conviction that something bad will come to pass, just as others believe in their dreams and aspirations. This is a revelation that can change everything. Fear and positive manifestation operate under the same universal principles, only in opposite directions. When we delve into the energetic nature of reality, we understand that everything around us is composed of vibrational fields. Our thoughts, and even more powerfully, our emotions, emit specific frequencies that interact with the universal energetic field. And fear, being one of the most intense emotions we can experience, acts as a powerful beacon of attraction. It is an amplifier, broadcasting signals that shape our reality, whether we are conscious of it or not. The journey we are about to embark on together is not just about overcoming or suppressing fear. That would be a superficial approach. Instead, we are going to explore the fundamental secret to transforming our relationship with fear, how to transmute it into a constructive force, and more importantly, how to transcend it completely. Once we grasp the true nature of fear, we will unlock a level of inner freedom that many people don't even realize is possible. Get ready for a transformational experience, one that will permanently shift the way you perceive not just fear, but reality itself. Because the true key to living without fear is not found in fighting against it. It is found in understanding its deepest nature and our connection to the universe. Once we embrace this essential understanding, a world of unlimited possibilities will unfold before us. To truly free ourselves from fear, we must first explore its origins. Fear, this ancient companion of our existence, has roots that stretch back to the very dawn of human evolution. It emerged as a defense mechanism, a built-in alarm system that kept our ancestors alive in a world filled with tangible dangers. When a predator lurked nearby or a storm threatened destruction, fear would instantly trigger our fight-or-flight response, preparing our bodies for immediate survival. This system worked brilliantly for millennia. The problem arises when we carry this same mechanism into the modern world. A world where life-threatening dangers are rare, yet the fear response remains intact. The primitive mind, designed to react to lions and natural disasters, does not distinguish between a physical predator and the anxiety of public speaking, between an actual abyss and the risk of starting a new business. What was once a protector has now become a jailer, keeping us confined within artificial comfort zones. One of the most fascinating aspects of fear is its nature as inverted faith. Think about it for a moment. When you fear something intensely, what are you really doing? You are placing your faith, your absolute belief, in the possibility of something undesirable manifesting. You are investing energy, attention, and emotion into a negative outcome, reinforcing its presence in your reality. This is the same mechanism through which positive manifestation works. The only difference is the direction in which it operates. Whether we are manifesting our greatest dreams or our deepest anxieties, the universal principles remain the same. Energy follows focus. When we experience fear, our energetic field vibrates at a specific frequency. And according to universal laws, the universe does not differentiate between fear and positive desire. It simply responds to the intensity and clarity of fear is perhaps the most fundamental and primitive emotion we experience as human beings. It is deeply ingrained in the very fabric of our brains, specifically within the amygdala, that ancient structure of our neural system that has ensured our survival as a species for millennia. From an evolutionary perspective, fear was absolutely essential. It alerted us to predators, kept us away from dangerous heights, and made us cautious about the unknown. For thousands of years, fear was our silent ally, the unseen guardian whispering in our ears, "Be careful, this is not safe." But here's where the paradox begins. What once protected us has now become our prison. In the modern world, where we rarely face immediate physical threats, fear has mutated. It no longer safeguards us from wild beasts or physical danger. Instead, it shields us from growth, from expansion, from new experiences, and from vulnerability itself. And this is where the first great contradiction arises. That which evolved to keep us alive is now preventing us from truly living. Yet this modern fear is not as straightforward as it seems. It operates on much subtler and more complex levels. It functions almost like a form of reverse faith. Think about it. Fear, at its core, is a belief, a deeply held certainty in something undesirable happening. It is believing with absolute conviction that something bad will come to pass, just as others believe in their dreams and aspirations. This is a revelation that can change everything. Fear and positive manifestation operate under the same universal principles, only in opposite directions. When we delve into the energetic nature of reality, we understand that everything around us is composed of vibrational fields. Our thoughts, and even more powerfully, our emotions, emit specific frequencies that interact with the universal energetic field. And fear, being one of the most intense emotions we can experience, acts as a powerful beacon of attraction. It is an amplifier, broadcasting signals that shape our reality, whether we are conscious of it or not. The journey we are about to embark on together is not just about overcoming or suppressing fear. That would be a superficial approach. Instead, we are going to explore the fundamental secret to transforming our relationship with fear, how to transmute it into a constructive force, and more importantly, how to transcend it completely. Once we grasp the true nature of fear, we will unlock a level of inner freedom that many people don't even realize is possible. Get ready for a transformational experience, one that will permanently shift the way you perceive not just fear, but reality itself. Because the true key to living without fear is not found in fighting against it. It is found in understanding its deepest nature and our connection to the universe. Once we embrace this essential understanding, a world of unlimited possibilities will unfold before us. To truly free ourselves from fear, we must first explore its origins. Fear, this ancient companion of our existence, has roots that stretch back to the very dawn of human evolution. It emerged as a defense mechanism, a built-in alarm system that kept our ancestors alive in a world filled with tangible dangers. When a predator lurked nearby or a storm threatened destruction, fear would instantly trigger our fight-or-flight response, preparing our bodies for immediate survival. This system worked brilliantly for millennia. The problem arises when we carry this same mechanism into the modern world, a world where life-threatening dangers are rare, yet the fear response remains intact. The primitive mind, designed to react to lions and natural disasters, does not distinguish between a physical predator and the anxiety of public speaking, between an actual abyss and the risk of starting a new business. What was once a protector has now become a jailer, keeping us confined within artificial comfort zones. One of the most fascinating aspects of fear is its nature as inverted faith. Think about it for a moment. When you fear something intensely, what are you really doing? You are placing your faith, your absolute belief, in the possibility of something undesirable manifesting. You are investing energy, attention, and emotion into a negative outcome, reinforcing its presence in your reality. This is the same mechanism through which positive manifestation works. The only difference is the direction in which it operates. Whether we are manifesting our greatest dreams or our deepest anxieties, the universal principles remain the same. Energy follows focus. When we experience fear, our energetic field vibrates at a specific frequency. And according to universal laws, the universe does not differentiate between fear and positive desire. It simply responds to the intensity and clarity of fear is perhaps the most fundamental and primitive emotion we experience as human beings. It is deeply ingrained in the very fabric of our brains, specifically within the amygdala, that ancient structure of our neural system that has ensured our survival as a species for millennia. From an evolutionary perspective, fear was absolutely essential. It alerted us to predators, kept us away from dangerous heights, and made us cautious about the unknown. For thousands of years, fear was our silent ally, the unseen guardian whispering in our ears, "Be careful. This is not safe." But here's where the paradox begins. What once protected us has now become our prison. In the modern world, where we rarely face immediate physical threats, fear has mutated. It no longer safeguards us from wild beasts or physical danger. Instead, it shields us from growth, from expansion, from new experiences, and from vulnerability itself. And this is where the first great contradiction arises. That which evolved to keep us alive is now preventing us from truly living. Yet this modern fear is not as straightforward as it seems. It operates on much subtler and more complex levels. It functions almost like a form of reverse faith. Think about it. Fear, at its core, is a belief, a deeply held certainty in something undesirable happening. It is believing with absolute conviction that something bad will come to pass, just as others believe in their dreams and aspirations. This is a revelation that can change everything. Fear and positive manifestation operate under the same universal principles, only in opposite directions. When we delve into the energetic nature of reality, we understand that everything around us is composed of vibrational fields. Our thoughts, and even more powerfully, our emotions, emit specific frequencies that interact with the universal energetic field. And fear, being one of the most intense emotions we can experience, acts as a powerful beacon of attraction. It is an amplifier, broadcasting signals that shape our reality, whether we are conscious of it or not. The journey we are about to embark on together is not just about overcoming or suppressing fear. That would be a superficial approach. Instead, we are going to explore the fundamental secret to transforming our relationship with fear, how to transmute it into a constructive force, and more importantly, how to transcend it completely. Once we grasp the true nature of fear, we will unlock a level of inner freedom that many people don't even realize is possible. Get ready for a transformational experience, one that will permanently shift the way you perceive not just fear, but reality itself. Because the true key to living without fear is not found in fighting against it. It is found in understanding its deepest nature and our connection to the universe. Once we embrace this essential understanding, a world of unlimited possibilities will unfold before us. To truly free ourselves from fear, we must first explore its origins. Fear, this ancient companion of our existence, has roots that stretch back to the very dawn of human evolution. It emerged as a defense mechanism, a built-in alarm system that kept our ancestors alive in a world filled with tangible dangers. When a predator lurked nearby or a storm threatened destruction, fear would instantly trigger our fight-or-flight response, preparing our bodies for immediate survival. This system worked brilliantly for millennia. The problem arises when we carry this same mechanism into the modern world, a world where life-threatening dangers are rare, yet the fear response remains intact. The primitive mind, designed to react to lions and natural disasters, does not distinguish between a physical predator and the anxiety of public speaking, between an actual abyss and the risk of starting a new business. What was once a protector has now become a jailer, keeping us confined within artificial comfort zones. One of the most fascinating aspects of fear is its nature as inverted faith. Think about it for a moment. When you fear something intensely, what are you really doing? You are placing your faith, your absolute belief, in the possibility of something undesirable manifesting. You are investing energy, attention, and emotion into a negative outcome, reinforcing its presence in your reality. This is the same mechanism through which positive manifestation works. The only difference is the direction in which it operates. Whether we are manifesting our greatest dreams or our deepest anxieties, the universal principles remain the same. Energy follows focus. When we experience fear, our energetic field vibrates at a specific frequency, and according to universal laws, the universe does not differentiate between fear and positive desire. It simply responds to the intensity and clarity of our energetic signals. And here lies a profound revelation. Fear can be one of the most powerful forces of manifestation. Why? Because it is often charged with immense emotional intensity. This understanding leads us to one of the most mind-bending paradoxes of all. What we fear the most tends to materialize in our lives, not because some malevolent force is working against us, but because our fear itself acts as an incredibly powerful, energetic magnet. It is as if the universe interprets our constant worry as a clear request. This is important to me. This occupies my mental and emotional space. This is what I am focused on. When fear dominates our consciousness, we unknowingly begin to filter reality, searching for confirmation of our deepest anxieties. Our perception becomes selective, honing in on signals that validate our fears while disregarding any evidence that contradicts them. This perceptual filter forces us into a frequency of fear, creating a self-reinforcing cycle that feeds itself, amplifies, and becomes stronger over time. Fear is not just a fleeting state of mind or a momentary emotional reaction. It is a sustained vibrational state, one that emits specific signals into the universal field, attracting experiences that resonate with that particular frequency. Understanding this concept liberates us from the limited belief that fear is something we must fight or suppress. Fear is not an enemy to be conquered. It is an inherent part of our biological structure and human experience. The true secret to overcoming fear lies not in resisting or eradicating it, but in transforming our relationship with it, understanding it fully, and ultimately transmuting it into a different form of energy. Only when we recognize that fear operates as a powerful, inverted creator can we begin to use that same power to manifest what we truly desire instead of unconsciously attracting what we fear. The root of fear, the illusion of duality. To fully unravel the secret of living beyond fear, we must examine one of the deepest illusions embedded in human consciousness: duality. From an early age, we are conditioned to perceive the world through opposing pairs: light and darkness, good and evil, success and failure, love and hatred. This dualistic perception has led us to believe that there are opposing forces locked in a constant battle, and that we must align ourselves with the positive side in order to thrive. At the core of this belief system lies the very foundation of fear, the idea that something bad can happen to us, that there is an external threat we must avoid at all costs. However, at a deeper level of reality, this separation is nothing more than an illusion. There are no truly opposing forces in the universe, only different expressions of the same fundamental energy. And here lies a liberating truth that will forever change your relationship with fear. There is only one force. Carl Jung, in his profound exploration of the human psyche, identified that what we fear most often resides in what he called the shadow, those parts of ourselves that we have rejected, suppressed, or denied. Jung understood that integration, not elimination, of these shadow aspects was the path to psychological wholeness. This Jungian insight aligns perfectly with the deepest spiritual truth. Duality is an illusion created by a fragmented perception of reality. When we operate from this limited dualistic viewpoint, we become trapped in a perpetual cycle. The fear that something bad might happen. This fear creates the perfect vibrational match for attracting exactly what we seek to avoid. Not because a malevolent force is working against us, but because our focused attention on fear sends a clear message to the universal field. This is important to me. This occupies my mental and emotional space. This is what I am focused on. Transcending fear, the power of unified perception. A unified perception allows us to transcend fear because it dissolves the very premise upon which fear is built, the illusion of separation. When we understand that we are individualized expressions of the same universal consciousness, fear loses its foundation. There is no other to defend against. There is no opposing force that can act against us. From this elevated perspective, we realize that there is no truly wrong path in absolute terms. What we perceive as detours or mistakes are merely different expressions of the same universal journey. This understanding frees us from the fear of making the wrong choice or taking the wrong path. Every experience, whether pleasurable or challenging, is an integral part of a coherent, unfolding process. When we view the universe through the lens of unity, what once seemed like threats transform into opportunities for growth. Apparent obstacles reveal themselves as teachers, and what we once feared becomes a gateway to our expansion. This unified vision is not just an abstract philosophical concept. It is a lived experience, one that fundamentally alters our reality, moment by moment. Understanding the nature of fear and the fundamental unity of reality is essential. However, knowledge alone is not enough. We need practical tools to transform this understanding into lived experience. This is where the concept of emotional alchemy comes in, the ability to transmute fear into courage. This transformation is not just a poetic metaphor. It is a real, energetic process that we can learn to master. The first thing we must understand is that fear and courage are not opposites. Rather, they are the same energy expressed at different vibrational frequencies. This realization is incredibly liberating because it means we don't need to eliminate fear or wait for it to disappear before acting bravely. Instead, we can transform that energy, redirect it, and elevate its frequency. The key to this transformation lies in one fundamental element: focus. Our energy flows wherever we direct our attention. When we are in a state of fear, our attention becomes fixated on what could go wrong, on potential threats and possible dangers. This sustained focus on fear reinforces its vibration, creating a self-perpetuating cycle that keeps us stuck. Redirecting attention to shift energy. To transform fear into courage, we must consciously shift our focus. This does not mean denying fear or pretending it doesn't exist. Instead, it means redirecting our attention toward aspects of the situation that generate a different vibration. Rather than being consumed by worst-case scenarios, we can shift our focus to opportunities for growth hidden within the challenge, our inner resources, the strengths we've cultivated over time, past victories, moments when we overcame similar obstacles. By making this shift, we reprogram our perception and begin altering our emotional response. The role of the nervous system in emotional alchemy. Our nervous system plays a crucial role in this process of transformation. When we experience fear, our body responds with a set of automatic physiological reactions: increased heart rate, rapid breathing, a surge of adrenaline. But here's something fascinating. These same physiological responses occur when we feel excitement or positive anticipation. The difference lies not in the physical reaction itself, but in how we interpret it. We can train our minds to reframe these sensations, to see them not as signals of danger, but as signs of activation, as the body's way of preparing us for action. This is like rewiring our internal software to assign a new meaning to the same physical signals. The power of action, fear, transforms through movement. However, the true alchemy of fear happens through action. Real courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act despite feeling fear. Every time we step forward while afraid, we are training our nervous system to associate those sensations with progress rather than paralysis. Each act of courage, no matter how small, recalibrates our system. We begin to show ourselves, on a deep level, that we can feel fear and still succeed. When you speak up for yourself, despite feeling nervous, You rewire your mind. When you take a step toward a goal that scares you, you shift your energy. When you refuse to let fear dictate your choices, you elevate the vibration of that energy. This is how fear is transmuted into the energy of achievement, growth, and power. As we practice this emotional alchemy, something extraordinary happens. The energy that once manifested as fear now transforms into clarity and discernment. We do not eliminate the energy, we elevate it. The same force that once paralyzed us now propels us forward with determination and purpose. A moment of reflection. I want to pause here and invite you to deeply connect with this truth. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes for a moment and recall a situation where fear held you back. Now, imagine facing that fear with power, not by erasing it, but by transforming it. Imagine feeling that surge of energy as motivation instead of hesitation. Feel the shift. Now, I invite you to write these powerful words in the comments. I transform fear into power. By writing this, you are not just affirming an idea. You are activating a shift within yourself. You are choosing to reclaim your energy and direct it toward your highest potential. This is the true essence of emotional alchemy. You are not merely affirming this truth. You are declaring your commitment to this alchemical process within your own life. The transmutation of fear into courage naturally leads us to the next level of personal evolution. Self-mastery. This concept goes far beyond simply controlling fear. It involves developing a sovereign relationship with all our emotions, thoughts, and states of consciousness. It is the art of governing our inner world with the same skill and precision that a master craftsman uses to handle their tools. At the heart of self-mastery, we find a fundamental element: self-confidence. This is not the superficial confidence that is displayed socially, but rather a profound inner certainty that arises from a relationship of honesty and respect with oneself. We could define it as the internal conviction that no matter what happens, we will be capable of responding appropriately. Self-confidence functions as a currency in our internal economy. When we possess enough self-confidence, we can purchase higher emotional states, including courage. However, unlike physical money, this currency is not accumulated by chance or inheritance. It is generated through a specific mechanism: the fulfillment of our personal commitments. Every time we make a promise to ourselves and keep it, we deposit a small amount into our self-confidence account. It can be something as simple as committing to waking up at a specific time, practicing a daily ritual, or abstaining from a harmful habit. The magnitude of the commitment is not as important as the consistency in fulfilling it. On the other hand, every time we break a promise we made to ourselves, we make a withdrawal from that account. With enough withdrawals, we reach emotional bankruptcy, a state where we no longer trust our own word. At that point, manifesting any desired reality becomes extremely difficult because we no longer truly believe in our ability to create or sustain it. The relationship between self-confidence and fear is inversely proportional. The greater our self-confidence, the less power fear has over us. This happens because self-confidence provides us with the inner security that regardless of what happens, we will be able to handle it. This security neutralizes the basic premise of fear, the sensation that something bad will overwhelm us. Another critical aspect of self-mastery is the development of self-validation. Many of us rely excessively on external validation, seeking approval, recognition, or confirmation from others. This dependency makes us vulnerable to fear because it places our sense of worth and security in the hands of others. Self-validation is about cultivating unconditional self-acceptance. This means assuming that we are the primary creators of our experience, not because everything is our fault, but because recognizing our creative role empowers us to make changes. When we blame external circumstances for our internal state, we relinquish our power and become subject to fear. There is a direct relationship between self-mastery and the mastery of external reality. The same laws that govern manifestation in the external world operate within our internal universe. By learning to consciously direct our attention, manage our emotional states, and fulfill our internal commitments, we are developing the very same skills necessary to consciously manifest in the external world. Self-mastery represents the turning point where we transition from being reactive to life to becoming conscious creators of our experience. It is the bridge between fear and freedom, between limitation and the infinite expansion of our possibilities. To integrate everything we have explored so far, we need concrete practices that allow us to live from a state of inner freedom, beyond the control of fear. These practices are not mere superficial techniques, but transformative tools that, when applied consistently, gradually reconfigure our relationship with reality. The fundamental practice from which all others derive is the cultivation of inner stillness. In a world that values constant activity and relentless productivity, stillness has become a scarce treasure. However, it is precisely in that space of silence where we can transcend duality and connect with our higher consciousness. Daily meditation, even if we start with just 5 minutes, creates a space where we can observe our thoughts and emotions without completely identifying with them. This detached observation is the first step toward freeing ourselves from the grip of fear. When we can see fear as a passing wave in our consciousness, rather than identifying ourselves as someone who has fear, we begin to free ourselves from its influence. While meditating, we can consciously practice expanding our energetic field. We visualize our energy extending beyond the limits of our physical body, merging with the universal field. This practice directly counteracts the energetic contraction that fear produces and helps us experience the essential interconnectedness with all that exists. Complementary to stillness is the practice of conscious presence in daily life. This involves bringing our full awareness to ordinary activities: eating, walking, conversing, working. The more we refine our ability to remain present, the less susceptible we become to unconscious emotional reactions. Presence acts as a stabilizing force, grounding us in the here and now, rather than allowing us to be swept away by fears of the past or anxieties about the future. By anchoring ourselves in presence and cultivating inner stillness, we create the ideal conditions for self-mastery to flourish. The journey from fear to courage, from reactivity to conscious creation, is not a theoretical endeavor. It is a lived experience, a path that unfolds with each moment of awareness, each commitment fulfilled, and each step taken toward a more empowered existence. When we are truly present, fear loses its power. Fear only exists when it projects us into an imagined future filled with uncertainty, or when it anchors us in a painful past that no longer exists. But presence, the act of fully immersing ourselves in the now, brings us back to the only moment where we truly have power: the present. One particularly powerful practice for maintaining a higher perspective in challenging situations is what we might call the cosmic observer. Imagine stepping outside of yourself and seeing your current life from a vastly broader perspective, as if you were floating thousands of miles above the earth, looking down at the entirety of your existence. From that altitude, the problems that once seemed overwhelming are suddenly revealed in their true nature. Temporary, relative, and small in the grand scale of existence. Fear thrives in the narrow confines of immediate experience. But when we expand our awareness, when we zoom out and view life from a cosmic perspective, fear shrinks. It no longer dominates us because we recognize that every challenge, every difficulty is just a passing moment in a much larger journey. The universe operates on a scale far beyond our current understanding, and by aligning ourselves with that vast intelligence, we can navigate life with a sense of peace and trust. Another essential practice for transcending fear is detachment from specific outcomes. When we rigidly attach ourselves to a single vision of how things must unfold, we create fertile ground for fear to grow. Why? Because any deviation from our expectations then feels like a threat. If we are absolutely convinced that life must follow a particular script, any disruption to that script brings anxiety, frustration, and doubt. But practicing detachment does not mean giving up on our desires or abandoning our intentions. Rather, it means holding them lightly, with confidence in the flow of life. It means being open to the possibility that the universe might have something even greater in store for us, something beyond what our limited human minds can conceive. True detachment is trusting in the intelligence of existence itself, recognizing that there is a force guiding all things, including us. This leads us to the next crucial practice: commitment to truth. To live beyond fear, we must be willing to see reality as it is, without distortion or denial. Fear thrives in the shadows of unconsciousness and avoidance. The more we resist seeing the truth about ourselves, our patterns, or the world around us, the more power fear gains. But when we make a conscious decision to face reality, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, we create the conditions for authentic transformation. We take back control of our inner world. We stop running from the truth and start using it as a tool for growth. One simple yet powerful way to maintain a high vibration throughout the day is by setting regular reminders, small yet meaningful moments that bring us back to our center. These reminders can be as simple as an alarm on your phone that prompts you to take a deep breath and reconnect with your essence. They can be affirmations strategically placed in your environment, words of power that remind you of your true, limitless nature beyond fear and limitation. We have now explored the nature of fear from multiple angles, from its evolutionary origins to the practices that allow us to transcend it. With all these insights integrated, we can now understand one essential truth. All genuine manifestation begins with the release of fear. As long as we remain trapped in a vibration of fear, even our most sincere attempts to create the life we desire will be sabotaged at their root. It's like trying to light a fire with wet wood. You may know the technique perfectly, but if the essential element is not in the right condition, the fire simply won't ignite. Releasing fear is not a one-time achievement. It is not a destination that we reach and never leave. Instead, it is a state of awareness that we return to again and again. It is a daily practice, a moment-by-moment commitment. There will be days when you flow effortlessly in that state of freedom, and there will be days when you have to consciously remind yourself of your true nature. What matters is not perfection, but consistency. Each time you transform fear into courage, each time you remain present in the face of discomfort, Each time you honor your inner commitments, you strengthen your ability to live from a higher consciousness. Remember this always. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is simply energy, an energy that can be transmuted. It does not define who you are. It is merely a fleeting experience in the vast ocean of your consciousness. Your true essence exists beyond fear and beyond all dualities that your limited perspective perceives. Now imagine what it would feel like to live from that space of absolute freedom. Imagine the quality of your relationships, the nature of your creative work, the experience of your physical body, when they are no longer filtered through the distorting lens of fear. That life is not an unattainable ideal. It is your natural state, your birthright as an individual expression of universal consciousness. The secret to living without fear has always been within you. It is not about acquiring something new, but rather about remembering something your soul has always known. I invite you to begin, right now, in this very moment, to reclaim the freedom that is already yours. Remember, there is only one true force in the universe, and there is nothing to fear. What once protected you and now seems to limit you can become your greatest ally once you fully understand it and transform it. Fear, when transmuted, becomes discernment. It becomes clear intuition. It becomes decisive action. This is not the end of the path. It is the beginning of an entirely new way of existing in this world. There is nothing to fear. And since you are still here, subscribe now so we can continue this journey together.